It's a cruel world for Naruto in this universe. To belong to every clan and yet have no family at all. He has ties to the Hyuga, the Yamanaka, the Nara, and the Akimichi. He has connections to many more, and yet instead of being loved, he found himself on trial, with his fate at stake as each clan tried to decide whether or not he should even be allowed to live. In the end, they seem to have concluded that he can live, but not without a price. Naruto now bears the cursed seal of the caged bird, the same that other Hyugas possess. Sasuke told him to wear it with pride because it meant that the clans thought him to be dangerous, and perhaps for a time he did, but all the same, being feared isn't what he wanted. All he really wanted was to be loved. So the question now is, will he find that familial bond within his clan that he's been searching for, or will he continue to live alone, connected to every clan, belonging to none? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into it. As night fell over the village, Hiruzen tucked Naruto into his bed. Naruto was currently wearing a little white cloth around his forehead. It was obviously to hide his curse mark. Such an obvious place. Hiruzen was still rather upset at Hiashi for branding Naruto without warning. This should not have happened to Naruto, but Hiruzen was glad that it seemed the worst was behind them. Naruto may now have to live with a curse mark for the rest of his life, but at least he would have a life, and that was enough for Hiruzen. Still, it pained him to see Naruto suffering like this, to the point that even in their own home, he was too self-conscious about his curse mark to remove the Hachimaki from his head. Hiruzen understood, however, and chose to say nothing about it. After everything that had happened, and the concept that at any moment someone could decide that he shouldn't live and fry his brain was a terrifying concept, and the fact that Naruto was sleeping at all seemed to be a miracle. He was gonna have to talk with Hiashi about this later. Even the other clan heads believed this to be a slightly drastic option, which seemed hypocritical to Hiruzen, as they were literally considering whether or not to kill Naruto at that moment, but at least they agreed with him on that front. It seemed a lot more likely that he could convince Hiashi to remove the mark in favor of some other insurance policy, but until then, Naruto would just have to deal with it. After ruffling Naruto's hair, Hiruzen stood and made his way to the door, where he opened it and stepped through. Closing it behind him, he'd proceed to make his way back to his office. Once there, he took his seat and began going over the paperwork that he needed to do. Various petitions for community projects, permits, and other legalities that fell to him. While this seemed less a job for a ninja and more the job of a bureaucrat, Hiruzen was technically both. The job of being Hokage was not what everyone believed it to be. Hiruzen sometimes wondered how many people would set their goals on being Hokage if they actually knew what it was that a Hokage did. As Hiruzen looked over every project, he kept the annual budget in mind while deciding which projects to approve, which to deny, which to put on hold for the time being, and which to allow to move now. This time around, most of the petitions were actually worth something, but most of them didn't line up with the budget or were so far down below priorities that it didn't seem feasible at the moment. It was these projects that Hiruzen had to deny for now. That was until they got enough money to perform them. Hiruzen continued his work until he heard the door creak open in front of him. His eyes drifted from the papers in his hand to the door at the other side of the room, and he saw the familiar blonde hair and blue eyes of the one he had only just now put to sleep. "Oh, Naruto, what are you doing out of bed?" Naruto stepped in. Immediately, Hiruzen knew something was off. Naruto wasn't wearing his PJs. Instead, he was wearing an all-black outfit with a green flak jacket over the top. Hiruzen sat forward. "Naruto?" It was then that he noticed that Naruto wasn't wearing his Hachimaki on his forehead, but what was truly a shock was that there was no curse mark there. "You're not!" Hiruzen would suddenly take two shuriken to the chest as he was then pinned to the wall by a flurry of kunai, each one piercing his arms and legs. Hiruzen was in a lot of pain. The form of the boy he had loved drew closer. "For the self-proclaimed strongest ninja in the village, you were pathetically easy to bring down." The boy threw another kunai, this time into Hiruzen's throat. Hiruzen gargled at first before his eyes rolled up. The boy would walk over to the scroll of seals and would lift it from its pedestal and would proceed to rush away with it, leaving Hiruzen to die. As Naruto was sleeping peacefully in bed, he heard people rushing past his door, yelling. In curiosity, he opened the door. "What's going on?" he asked, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. One of the shinobi slowed down for but a moment. "There was an attempt on the Hokage's life." Naruto's eyes widened as every sign of his sleepiness was suddenly covered by a look of absolute terror. "Oh no, is he alright?" Naruto asked. The shinobi mentioned that he'd been transferred to Konoha General for medical help in an effort to save his life. Naruto would grab his stuff and head to the hospital. Hiruzen would be back for quite a few hours in surgery. Naruto waited outside. The fluorescent lights flickered in and out as few people passed through the halls. Most of those he saw were shinobi safeguarding the hospital, turning it into a virtual fortress while the doctors and surgeons passed by, doing their thing. Naruto sat there as his drowsiness was starting to overtake him. He had no idea how long Hiruzen might be under the knife, so he laid over on the seat and proceeded to fall asleep. He would wake up a little later to find a blanket had been cast over his side, pulled up to his shoulders. Where it came from, he didn't know. He didn't care either, because it was keeping him warm. But by this time, the sun was already starting to rise, and it was then that the doctors came out of the OR to talk to Naruto and the Anbu captain Kakashi about the nature of the wounds. The wounds pierced quite a few organs, and he lost a lot of blood. Thankfully, the damage done seems to have mostly been repaired, but his heart stopped 4 times on the operating table. His body has responded to this by entering a coma. When, or even if he'll wake up, we can't predict. The white-haired operative wearing the kitsune mask nodded solemnly without a word. He began to walk away. Naruto looked at the doctor. "Can I see him?" he asked. The doctor nodded. "Just this way." The doctor led Naruto to the room. There, Naruto saw Hiruzen. He seemed so different than he had the last time he'd seen him, no more than 6 hours ago. It blew Naruto's mind. The man was pale, his eyes sunken, and now he was attached to a ventilator and a heart monitor, both designed to keep his vital functions going. An IV stood beside Hiruzen, its long tube running down and into his veins to keep him hydrated and nourished while his body healed. Naruto walked over to Hiruzen and took a seat. "There's no point," the doctor said. "We don't even know if he's going to wake up again. And if he does, there's no guarantee that it won't be a year or more from now. I would suggest going home and letting us work." All the same, Naruto sat down. "Work as you need to. I won't be in the way." The doctor shrugged. "Suit yourself." As Naruto sat there beside the elderly man, he felt as if this were something he had to do. After all, how many times had Naruto been in the hospital and Hiruzen been there for him? Hiruzen would be here with Naruto if Naruto had been the one attacked. He deserved the same courtesy. Naruto would take Hiruzen's hand and stroke it with his thumb. "It's okay. You're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it," Naruto said to the vegetized ancient. "The Anbu will figure out who did this, and they'll put an end to them." As more time in the day passed and noon was coming in, Naruto finally woke up again. He found that he had fallen asleep there by Hiruzen's side. At first, he hoped that this was all just a bad dream, but it wasn't. Hiruzen had been attacked, and now the village was without a leader. Or so Naruto had believed. Being young, he didn't understand the complexities of the political games played in Konoha, nor did he realize that the village itself had safeguards for this. The village's leadership would be turned over to the council for the time being, until Hiruzen could return to duty. But now Naruto was alone, or so he felt. He felt alone. That's not to say he couldn't live still. Going back to the Hokage's residence, he would get something to eat. He had enough food and was free to stay there and sleep as he had since he had gotten to Konoha, but all the same, he once more felt like an outcast. Outcast from his father, Orochimaru. Outcast from his village and the clans he was attached to. And now, the only family he had left was laying in a hospital bed, a machine breathing for him. As Naruto sat there with his ramen, he couldn't eat. He had specifically chosen his favorite as a way to incentivize his body to actually consume something, but now even the scent of a slightly spicy, definitely tangy chicken ramen bowl was not enough to cause his stomach to rumble. "Screw it," Naruto said as he tried to down the whole cup at once, attempting to get as much nutrients as possible before his body said no. This was not a good idea, as his body immediately rejected it all, causing him to puke into the trash can. And now his favorite ramen was tainted. With Hiruzen being harmed, and now having vomited back up that which he loved, the taste would forever be ruined by the feelings he was currently having. Feeling worse than before, he decided to simply get something to wash the hideous taste from his mouth, and at least give his body something to run on. He got some milk from the fridge and poured it into a glass. He then grabbed the chocolate sauce and poured that in too. Stirring it all together, he held up the chalky milk he had made because he was epic. No, not even all the memes the kids at the academy had shown him on the internet could make him feel better. As he drank it, he walked to the Hokage's office and began to look around. The office had been laid to waste. He looked at the wall where he saw Hiruzen had been pinned. He knew that this was where he'd been pinned due to the kunai holes in the wall in the shape of a man. That and all the blood pooled up on the wall and on the floor. The room had been ransacked. According to reports, the scroll of seals had been taken, but they couldn't tell by who. Naruto continued looking through. Kakashi had been looking through the scene as well, and with his Sharingan eye, he tended to be able to see things that others couldn't. But even the Sharingan had its limits. The Sharingan and Byakugan both. Naruto needed to know what it was that had happened in this room, so he activated his Senrigan, the only eye that could tell him for certain. time passed backward for Naruto as he rewound it back around 10 to 11 hours. In his eye, suddenly the room was back in order. He saw Hiruzen working, doing paperwork, talking to himself, trying to convince himself to decide whether to choose road repair or building repair this month. It was then that the door opened. Naruto looked back, and to his horror, he saw himself enter the room. But it wasn't himself, was it? As this dark doppelganger entered, Hiruzen stood and walked around his desk to meet him. But to his surprise, and Naruto's as well, Hiruzen was struck with shuriken, pinned to the wall with kunai, and then pierced through the throat. The doppelganger then stole the scroll of seals and made his way to the window. It stopped though and turned around with a smile. The mysterious boy also activated a set of Senrigan and looked directly toward where Naruto would be looking and smiled. "Our master's expecting you. I offer you an invitation. Follow me and come alone." The shinobi jumped out the window. Naruto would grab his items and weapons and make his way back to the office where he'd activate his Senrigan again. He'd follow the phantom of the doppelganger and rush off in that direction. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop, he wondered why he hadn't informed the Anbu about this. The clone had told him to come alone, so chances were if he didn't, Orochimaru would know, and Naruto would never get to meet with him. Conversely, Naruto wondered that even if he did go alone, was there any chance he could do anything against Orochimaru? Naruto had a lot of cool abilities, but the phantom clone he was following would also be there, which would likely have the same powers as Naruto. In the end, it boiled down to the fact that Orochimaru was smarter. He created Naruto. Was it any less feasible to think that he knew all of Naruto's strengths and weaknesses and how to exploit them? All the same, Naruto needed to go after Orochimaru, and he needed to stop him. This was likely their only chance to do so. Naruto may have had the cards stacked against him, and the chances of his success were low, but even if the chances of him succeeding were 1 in a million, those chances were better than 0 in a million. As they reached the edge of the village, Naruto followed the clone non-stop, well into the cool of the day as the sun was setting, hiding behind a veil of twilight. Naruto leapt from limb to limb, his feet hitting the creaking wood as he jumped. Moving deeper through a forest at incredible speeds, they eventually came to a stop before another underground laboratory, not too dissimilar from the one he had escaped from before. He followed the clone in before switching from his Senrigan to his Byakugan. The sad news was that even with the Byakugan, it was hard to see. The good news though was that due to there being so many shadows nearby, the shadow paralysis jutsu would be very effective. But Naruto supposed that this went in both directions. Maybe he could use it, but they could as well. But that was fine. In that way, they'd reach a stalemate, which would give Naruto enough time to think up an escape plan. As he walked deeper through, he would see a light coming from a door. Naruto stepped to it and opened it up. As soon as he did, he felt his jaw hit the floor. The room was filled with clones, each one a mirror image of the other, a mirror image of himself. Every person in that room, save Kabuto, could lay claim to the name of Naruto. It was then that one of the clones took Naruto's hand and led him to a throne-like chair at the back of the room where another was sitting, slumped in a somewhat comfortable-looking position. Naruto recognized the pale skin and purple markings around the eyes, and the hair color was also black, but all in all, this was still a clone of himself. "Welcome home, Naruto," a voice all too familiar said to him. Naruto was stunned. "Father?" Naruto looked him up and down. "But you look like me." "Indeed I do," Orochimaru said. "This was the end result of your creation. This was your purpose the whole time, to serve as my vessel." "But how could you do this? You gave birth to us." Orochimaru shook his head. "No, I gave birth to myself. Being my vessel is an honor bestowed upon few, and now I have a new one. And the other clones are allowed to live as they wish. In the next 3 years, I will ask another vessel, which could be any of the many here, and with their permission, I'll take over their body." "Permission?" Naruto asked. Orochimaru nodded. "I learned not too long ago what happens when you try to take the body of a Sharingan user by force. The body you see before you was willfully given up by the clone that inhabited it. Their subconscious will remain a part of me forever, and will live eternally within me. That is why it's an honor to be my vessel, because just as much as I become a part of you, you become a part of me." "Why did you attack Mr. Hiruzen?" Naruto asked. "Because he was too weak. He attempted to destroy my work that took me years to accomplish. He drove me out and denied me what was rightfully mine. It's the small minds like his that are ruining the world. Minds who talk ceaselessly of sacrifice, but the moment they're asked to make a sacrifice, they flee. My studies can help this world. They can improve lives, save lives, and eventually cure death. Imagine a world where nothing dies, an immortal world. That is the world I wish to create, and Hiruzen stepped in the way. So I tried to kill him." Naruto took a step back. "You're evil." It was as if only now did the realization truly hit him. It was as if only now did Naruto finally come to terms with what he'd been told. The illusion was broken. His father was not a good man. "You're going to destroy Konoha, aren't you?" Naruto asked, looking deep into Orochimaru's mind with his telepathy. Orochimaru was not hiding anything from Naruto. Naruto was free to peer deeply into Orochimaru's mind, and there he witnessed his village burning. Orochimaru was silent for a moment. "Why do you care?" Orochimaru asked flatly. "Isn't this village run by the clans who couldn't even decide whether you should live or not?" Orochimaru stood from his seat. He walked over and pulled off Naruto's forehead protector to show the cursed mark of the Hyuga clan. "Doesn't it scare you to think that at any moment they could decide that you're not worth keeping around and just burn your brain to ashes?" Naruto was silent. "We're your family, Naruto. We're the ones you belong to. Return to us and all is forgiven." "You tried to kill me," Naruto said. Orochimaru nodded. "At that time, I had planned to kill you for disobeying me. I knew you would attempt to run and do to me the same thing Hiruzen tried to do all of those years ago. You were going to let your emotions get the best of you and ruin the perfect future that I'd planned for the world. But right now, I offer you a chance to do something greater and to live out your purpose in life. If not to serve me, then why else were you created? You're mine, and deep down you know that. You always knew it. And now I offer you a blank slate, a clean record. I forgive your past transgressions, Naruto. Return home. Return home to my love and fulfill your reason for living." Orochimaru once more looked at the mark on Naruto's forehead. "Your powers are yours, and this curse mark is nothing more than a Damocles sword meant to keep you in check. I will do no such thing to you. Maybe I will try to kill you should you betray me again, but I'll at least keep the playing field fair. I'll have a way to remove it for you soon. I will have to find a way to remove it for you." Orochimaru looked into Naruto's eyes. "So what say you, my son? Will you come home to me? Will you help me make a better world, without disease, without death?" Orochimaru offered Naruto his hand. Naruto looked down at the hand, palm open, and pushed toward him. This was Naruto's purpose. This was the reason he was created. And had Konoha really treated him much better than Orochimaru? They wanted him dead as much as Orochimaru did. Why should Naruto care about them? He reached out and grabbed Orochimaru's hand, but as he did so, he was dragged down memory lane, forced by his own subconscious to remember something. Naruto saw himself holding another hand, but looking up, he saw Ino. She held his in the most kind way. She turned it over to expose the cut on his finger and began to tend to it. She'd been so kind to him. Then he remembered the first time he ever met Shikamaru and Choji. Trying to remain formal, he offered a handshake, which they thought was weird for a kid to do, but accepted it anyway before telling him to just chill. There was no reason to be so formal. Then he saw his hand in the hand of Neji Hyuga, who was helping him off the ground after giving him secret lessons in the gentle fist technique, despite Hiyashi's desire that Naruto be excluded. "If they believe you're Hyuga enough to possess a curse mark, then you're Hyuga enough to learn our special technique," Neji had said. Hinata was there to cheer him on. "Now, the trick is in knowing which tenketsu have the most impact on the human body. Try again." Lastly, he saw an image in his head of Hiruzen. Naruto had tears in his eyes as he realized the curse mark placed upon him could steal his life at any moment. Yet Hiruzen's hand had reached down and took Naruto's up. "What do you say we go to the park?" Hiruzen asked. He led Naruto out. As Naruto gripped Orochimaru's hand, a smile drew across his face. "I'm sorry, Papa, but I've already found my reason to live. My new purpose, and I can't let you destroy that for the sake of revenge." Orochimaru sighed. "That's sad. Looks like I'll have to change your mind some other way." He then bit Naruto's neck, causing him to stumble back. He pulled his hand away and saw a little blood upon it. Naruto was starting to see double and his ability to hear was growing impaired. "Take him to the brig. We'll deal with him after we destroy Konoha." Naruto then felt himself falling unconscious. He would be dragged down the halls toward the cells where he'd be thrown in and left there. Naruto wasn't sure how long he was out. All he knew was that he needed to get out. He stood and walked over to the cell's door and saw the lock. Kneeling in front of it, he examined it with his Byakugan. It was impressive, with various mechanisms that made it near impossible to pick. It required a key to work, which is when Naruto began getting to work. He utilized his Shikotsumyaku to form a bone protrusion from his fingertip. With it, he began to push the bone into the lock. There, he used his Byakugan to find all of the pins and began to press them in all the proper places, only going so far as they needed. He managed to manipulate his bone structure to press down every pin and then twisted his finger. There was a clicking sound that rivaled ASMR levels of pleasure as the lock unlatched. Naruto would then have to fight his way out. Or maybe not. There was only one clone there, and this clone, like him, had the attention span of a fly, and was too busy reading through a copy of Shonen Jump. Naruto took advantage of this and would knock the clone out before switching clothes, and throwing him into the brig and locking him up. Naruto looked down at his new outfit and smiled. Now I should be able to just walk right out. The night was calm, and Sasuke was doing his own thing. He always did his own thing, but tonight was special. Due to his overwhelming boredom, he decided to do something he rarely ever did, which was go out during the nighttime. And what was it that he decided to do? Go down to the river that ran through Konoha and do a little fishing. For most children, fishing was a boring pastime, but for Sasuke, it helped him focus and calm down. He could work out any issue he had while reeling it in. It didn't matter to him if he caught a fish or not. Honestly, he had never caught a fish at this spot, and he was beginning to wonder if there even were fish in the river, but that didn't matter to him. The repetitive motions helped his heart calm down and helped him to work through whatever issues were going through his mind. And right now, he was thinking a bit too much about Itachi, about the destruction of his clan. But that led to Sasuke thinking about Naruto. Naruto was a conglomeration of every clan, and an unnatural person created by science. Sasuke ended up wondering if he should count Naruto as an Uchiha clan member, since his Uchiha clan membership was based on genetics that were technically stolen. But as he did so, he pushed these thoughts from his mind. What was it to be an Uchiha clan member? Was it the Sharingan? No, many Uchiha clan members never had or never could awaken it. And in some cases, maybe that was for the best. The Sharingan brought with it emotional baggage, and it was specifically for this reason why the Uchiha were dead, and the Fuma clan was still alive. But all the same, Naruto had the Sharingan, the Rinnegan too. So was it his genetics? Well, he had those too. Was it simply that he was from stolen genetics? No. Sasuke had once known a shinobi very close to his father, the most honorable shinobi he had ever known at that age, and that shinobi was born from a single mother who had not consented to the action that created him. So if it wasn't genetics, Kekkei Genkai, or procurement of DNA that made someone an Uchiha, then what was it? It was heart. That was what Sasuke settled on. Anyone who wanted to be an Uchiha clan member and dedicated their lives to serving the clan was a member of the clan. And right now, Naruto wanted it. He wanted to be a member of the clan. He wanted to serve the clan for the betterment of the clan. Yes, he had a lot of strange genetics that would connect him to other clans, but it seemed almost as if those clans didn't want him. Sasuke stood. It was then that he decided in his heart that Naruto would be his brother. He would be Naruto Uchiha of the Uchiha clan. He reeled in his line and picked up everything he had brought out to fish. He was going to go straight to the Hokage's residence and tell Naruto this good news personally, or so he planned to do. That was until the village suddenly came under attack. Strategic assault. Every major clan at once was being attacked, and the main part of the village was now occupied. Sasuke rushed forward, his Sharingan activated. As he came to the center of town, standing amongst the flames, he saw the image of Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing? Suddenly, another clone appeared, and Sasuke immediately recognized that these were not actually Naruto, but in fact his clones. Sasuke started folding his hands into various signs in hopes of creating a jutsu, fireball jutsu. He released a mass of flames at the clone, only for the clone to hold out its hand and absorb the chakra. In the Hyuga clan compound, the Hyuga were taken off guard. The clones pushed into their home and began utilizing their various techniques that they had to attack. The Hyuga, however, would respond by using their gentle fist. These clones may have possessed Byakugan, but just because they didn't mean they could use it properly. Hiyashi was out there fighting. With the gentle fist, he killed 3 different clones at once. As he went to kill the 4th, that clone utilized Shikotsumiyaku to create a bone protrusion, causing Hiyashi to impale his own hand on the bone. He pulled his hand back as blood began to pour. He looked back at his daughters. Hinata was standing there, the toddler Hanabi in her arms. "Girls, get out of here! Run!" Hinata obeyed. She hated to leave her father behind, but she knew he was a greater warrior than she, one of the most skilled shinobi the Hyuga had ever produced, and if this was too much for him, it would definitely be too much for her. As she and Hanabi ran, however, they were stopped by another clone carrying a kunai. Looking into the red eyes of Naruto, the girls felt fear. The Mangekyo looking back at them felt so cold, so merciless. It approached them, but as it did, a voice shouted, 8 trigrams, 64 palms! Suddenly, Neji rushed into their rescue, striking out at the 63 most important tenketsu on the clone's body before finishing it off by striking it in the solar plexus with the 64th, completely shutting down its chakra pathway system, causing the clone to die. As the clone fell over and perished, Neji grabbed Hinata's hand and began to run with her. "What's happening?" she asked. "Konoha is under attack." The noble clans are the first targets. We're the pillars of this society. If we go down, the whole village will collapse under its own weight. We need to get you and as many Hyuga as possible to safety. If we can do this, we might at least be able to limit the damage done in the attack." As they rushed off though, they'd be stopped by another group of clones. They were surrounded. Neji, lowering down into his stance, would tell Hinata that he'd make an opening for her. When he did, she needed to run for her life. Neji rushed forward and took out 2 clones in the way, opening a hole for her to escape through. Neji then clogged that hole by staying there and striking with the gentle fist technique. Hinata kept running. By this time, Hanabi was crying. Hinata wanted to cry too, tears welling up in her eyes for fear of what might be happening to her parents, to what fate Neji might be suffering now, but she stayed strong. She had a job to do. There'd be time to cry later, and now was not that time. As she ran, she would be stopped by 2 more clones, and Hinata would put Hanabi down. "Stay behind me, Hanabi." She then lowered down into her stance. As the 2 clones drew closer, she was surprised when suddenly one clone attacked the other, suppressing his tenketsu. The clone went down, leaving the other one standing over it. The remaining clone looked up. "Hinata, it's me, Naruto. Hurry up, we gotta go." "Wait," she demanded. "How do I know it's you?" Naruto stood there silently. He removed his forehead protector to show the mark on his forehead. "Neji once said that if I was considered Hyuga enough to have this curse mark, then I should be considered Hyuga enough to be taught the gentle fist." Hinata ran to him and hugged him. "Please, we have to save Neji." Naruto nodded. "I will, but right now we need to get you out of here. Go find somewhere safe to hide." Naruto would then rush off to help Neji. Neji nearly attacked Naruto until he noticed the curse mark. "Couldn't have shown up at a better time." Naruto nodded. "I know. I'm gonna make you an opening. I need you to get Hinata out of here." Neji nodded. Naruto then covered Neji's escape. He had more training in certain arts than these clones, so he believed that he would be able to bring them down. It seemed they had no training in the gentle fist, so he would use that to his advantage. Dancing about them in the way Neji had taught, Naruto brought down the remaining clones. As Naruto looked them over, he wondered why it was that they'd chosen Orochimaru over their own freedom. They were like himself, but instead of choosing the right way, they chose differently. What had Orochimaru done to them? Naruto examined closely with his Byakugan and discovered that each clone was under a mask genjutsu, designed to make them enthralled to Orochimaru's will. Naruto so easily could have ended up the same way, and perhaps Orochimaru had tried when Naruto met with him, but it was Naruto's memories of his friends that kept him safe. That meant that the only chance Konoha had to survive was if Naruto found Orochimaru and put a stop to him. Unless he did that, the genjutsu would continue. But where would Orochimaru go? Suddenly, Naruto knew. He headed to Konoha General. Hiruzen was completely unaware of what was going on. He remained comatose and was laying in bed, his room being protected by an entire squad of Anbu agents. But even they stood no chance against Orochimaru, who would bring them all down using his Shikotsumiyaku. As Orochimaru entered, his bone dagger drenched in the blood of his enemies, he stepped from the darkness into the light cast from an overhead lamp. "It's shameful seeing you this way, Hiruzen-sensei. To think that all it took to fell the god of shinobi was a familiar face and a few shuriken. I guess old age claims everyone. Maybe if you had sponsored me instead of trying to destroy my life's work, you'd be benefiting from a younger body that could keep you alive forever." As Orochimaru drew closer, he spoke yet again. They say that comatose patients can still hear the voices of those around them, and even if they're not active, may still be conscious to a point. I certainly hope you are. I want you to hear the sound of your own death. Orochimaru drew closer, but as he did, Naruto broke through the door. "Father, stop!" Orochimaru sighed and looked back. "Naruto, you should have known better than to meddle further. If you had remained in that cell, your life would have been far better. Better as your slave? Better as a puppet trapped under your genjutsu?" Naruto asked. "Better because you would still be alive," Orochimaru responded with a smile. Naruto stood there silently. "I don't think it would be. I'd rather be dead than to be forced to do as you say." Orochimaru laughed. "If that's the case, then you're free to choose death." "No, father. I'm going to choose life. The life that I want." "No," Orochimaru said. "You choose to be a slave to someone else's whims. Look at that mark on your forehead. It's proof that you are and forever will be a slave. And when they don't need you anymore, they'll throw you away. Don't you get it? That's your lot in life. You were created to serve, and regardless of who your master is, you'll always serve." Naruto shook his head. "Not today. Not any longer. Even if it kills me, I'll no longer be a slave." "Then come and die," Orochimaru said as he lunged at Naruto with his bone dagger. As the two of them tussled, the sound of explosions could be heard. Naruto formed a dagger of his own. He would try to use shadow paralysis to freeze Orochimaru in place, but to his horror, Orochimaru utilized the same technique to shield himself from it. Suddenly, Orochimaru's eyes switched to Rinnegan and utilized Shinra Tensei to push Naruto through the wall and out onto the streets. Naruto lay there. He began to rise up from the ground to his feet. Orochimaru started to speak. You know, I came to learn recently that I could simply cast omniprisons to get whatever I want. He lifted Naruto up and stabbed him in the stomach. As Naruto coughed up blood, Orochimaru pulled him closer. Do you know why I didn't just cast it now and force the world to forget who I am? Naruto felt his blood exiting the wound, a warm, sticky feeling soaking the front of his shirt, seeping through his stolen flak jacket. Because I want the world to know that it was Orochimaru and Orochimaru alone that destroyed the Hidden Leaf Village. He then threw Naruto back. Naruto lay there on the ground, staring up into the sky at the stars, his hand lowered to his wound as if making a futile attempt to staunch the bleeding. Naruto looked at his own bone dagger and gripped it tightly as he rose to his feet again. Pathetic. He rushed at Naruto once more. Naruto called all of his training to mind and suddenly stepped forward into Orochimaru's strike. It was as if the entire world slowed down. Naruto activated a single Sharingan and a single Byakugan. Doing so allowed him to see things in a whole new light. With the Sharingan, he got the perception that made it seem as if time were creeping to a halt, and with the Byakugan, he had the magnification to see every tenketsu in Orochimaru's body. With his left hand's blade, he pushed Orochimaru's weapon away, and with his right hand, he'd push his fingers forward, searching for tenketsu to strike. Hitting them, Orochimaru was shocked. The shock caused him to drop his own blade. As if a certain limit within him had shattered, Naruto began utilizing the gentle fist technique. His willpower forcing him to open his inner gates to increase his speed, Naruto utilized a new technique. 8 trigrams, 361 palms. Naruto began quickly striking every tenketsu Orochimaru had. His movements were so quick that his strikes were breaking the sound barrier. Furthermore, the speed was so intense that Naruto could feel his very muscles burning and tearing. As he reached the final strike, he raised his palm up. 361 palms! He pushed his hand into his solar plexus. Orochimaru flew back and hit the ground. He was dead before Naruto had even finished the technique. This was the definition of overkill, but Naruto didn't care. He needed to be sure. But as Orochimaru's body slumped, Naruto fell out from underneath him. He hit the ground. With Orochimaru's death, the clones stopped fighting. Victory was attained, and as the village was reclaimed, it didn't take them long to recapture the village's center, which led them to finding Naruto outside of Konoha General. Hiyashi stood there and looked back at the other clan heads. See? This is why we should have executed him a long time ago. This is the threat that he presents. The other clan heads couldn't help but agree, even if they didn't really want to. The point was, Naruto was too strong, and the fact that he could so easily be replicated was even worse. Hiyashi sighed. It's best that we simply end him. He raised his fingers to begin utilizing the curse mark. Naruto screamed out in agony as the mark was activated. He could feel the very nerve endings in his brain shattering. Tears formed in his eyes and streamed down his cheeks. The other clan heads could hardly watch. Even Hiyashi could hardly watch. But this was for the best, right? He was too dangerous to live. It was then that Hiyashi would be knocked back. He hit the ground and opened his eyes to see what had stopped him. Standing there in front of Naruto was Sasuke Uchiha. I am as much a clan head as you are, Sasuke said. This boy possesses Uchiha blood. If you kill him, that will be a slight against the Uchiha clan, and it'll form a grudge that will hold against you forever. Hiyashi stood. I'm sorry, Sasuke, but as it stands, he's a threat to the village. Your clan simply is not large enough to outvote you. Are you so sure, Dad? A voice said. Suddenly, Hinata and Hanabi appeared behind Sasuke. Neji took his place beside his 2 charges. Hinata! 2 more appeared there. I know this is a real drag, Lord Hyuga, but we can't let you do this. Shikamaru and Choji stepped up as well, standing between the clan heads and Naruto. But they weren't alone. Ino was there as well. Listen, I want you to know this. If you kill Naruto, the one who saved the village from Orochimaru, will hate you forever. We'll never forgive it. Naruto is not a threat to you, Shikamaru said. The science that made him die is with Orochimaru, and even if it didn't, you're looking at progress. If Orochimaru doesn't do it, someone else will. You can't stop the progress of science. All we can do is learn to adapt. One day, every Kekkei Genkai will be something everyone can get. One day, the Hyuga will have Sharingan. One day, the Uchiha will possess the Shikotsumiyaku Bone Blades. You can't stop it. Even if you killed Naruto, it would still happen. All you'd accomplish here is killing the hero who saved the leaf. Is that really what you want to do? The clan heads all looked to each other. Shikaku walked over and stood by Shikamaru. I'm convinced. I'll stand with the Uchiha clan's head on this one. Inoichi would walk over as well. I've known Naruto longer than any of you. I can vouch for his heart. Regardless of what the future brings, he deserves this freedom, and that's a hill I'll die on. Choza then walked over too. Me too. Me too. I choose to stand by Naruto. Shikaku looked around. That's the whole Ino Shikacho trio. And with Hiruzen obviously on our side, I think we now outvote you, Hiyashi. Hinata walked over to him. Dad, I know you don't want to do this to Naruto. I can see it in your eyes. Hiyashi looked down. Hinata, if I don't, It could end the Hyuga. She shook her head. The Hyuga will not die so long as someone exists to carry on their legacy. We're a lot more than genes and techniques. A lot more than traditions and Byakugan. We're a family. It's time to let the old ways go and just let whatever will be, be. Hiyashi looked down at his hand. You're right. The Hyuga have always been so stuck in our old ways that we forget what these traditions were designed to protect in the first place. Hiyashi approached the now unconscious Naruto. He placed his hand on the boy's forehead and removed the curse mark. Naruto, I would be grateful if you would choose to be a Hyuga. Naruto would awaken once more in the hospital. His entire body was burned and it hurt to even move. But as he opened his eyes, he saw that he wasn't alone. Hiruzen? He tried to sit up only to fall back as his muscles felt like they were about to pop. Hiruzen put his hand down on Naruto's shoulder. Calm. I'm here. I'm okay. Naruto looked around and saw various balloons and flowers around the room. What's all this? Hiruzen looked back. This is the gratitude of every clan in Konoha. They're all happy you're okay. Naruto seemed confused. I thought they would hate me after what happened. Hiruzen shook his head. No, they opened their eyes to you. You've touched so many hearts that you even began to tear down the oppressive traditions that were ruining the lives of so many. Wow, I did? Naruto asked. He smiled as tears came to his eyes. They really are my family. Hiruzen smiled and put his hand over Naruto's. We're all your family, Naruto, and we always will be. In the aftermath of the attack, Naruto was respected as a member of every clan, but his was not the only happy ending. With the clones freed, they had nowhere left to go, so each clone would be allocated to a clan, who would volunteer to take care of them. They all looked the same, and few of them had names, so after being taken in, Konoha would name them, and tattoo each of their names on their arm to give them a sense of uniqueness. Each clone would go on to live happily as a member of a specific clan. This saw the early resurgence of the Uchiha clan, and as years moved on, generations passed by. Naruto and his clones would mingle with the citizens of Konoha, and eventually their genes would evenly spread out over each clan. Every clan began gaining access to other Kekkei Genkai through this until all clans shared them. But this did not result in the end of clans, au contraire. Just as Hinata had said, the legacy of each clan lived on, and their specific ways of life continued. And through this unity, Konoha would go on to be a beacon of peace for the future. And that's the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked this video series because it allowed me to explore what it means to be family, what the value of family traditions are, and what the true value of a human life is. Every life matters, no matter how it was conceived or what genetics it inherits. Life is sacred, and everyone is created equal. And that's something that we should remember. That's a legacy worth passing on to the future. In a world so divided, it can be easy to forget that we all inhabit a little beautiful blue marble called Earth. So it's my hope that love conquers over the darkness that divides us and brings us into a future worth having. But I should get off my soapbox now. If you did, be sure to let us know with a comment and a clicking of that thumbs up button. And if you want to help us continue making more videos like this, double check and make sure that you're subscribed. I can't stress it enough, it's free and as simple as clicking a button. That will help us continue making more videos just like these here on the screen. Check them out, by the way. And don't forget to ring the bell to be notified when new videos release. Until then, peace out.